downloaded it and put it in my computer. My computer went, what? I had to run it through Android just to do.
Mic check, mic check, mic check.
So I'm James from the labor industry. I'm the man behind the curtain. They're going to do it all. So let me know if you need help and pull that in.
Jeans, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exciting day. I'm glad to see everyone here. My name is Gene Sparks. I'm an organizer with my union, SEIU Healthcare Minnesota and Iowa, and an EMT as well. During the COVID pandemic, I worked in the emergency department at St. Francis Regional in Shakopee. I'm one of the people who applied for the frontline worker pay, and I'm here with others to celebrate this exciting moment. Today, we're going to hear from other workers, elected officials, and temporary Department of Labor and Industry Commissioner Nicole Blissenbach. I do want to start today by saying how proud I am to be here with other workers, unions, community groups, and elected officials who fought so hard to make this happen. So many of us, especially healthcare workers, faced unimaginable challenges during the first year of COVID. Long shifts, uncertain procedures, and the constant threat of infection to ourselves, our patients, and our loved ones kept many of us worried throughout the day and sleepless at night. The life of a healthcare worker means placing yourself in constant risk, and the thank yous that we got often felt like empty words before they faded out completely. I'm so glad to see that our state delivered on recognizing the sacrifice and the risk of being a frontline worker. I, along with many other Minnesotans, testified to the legislature during the debate over this program and proceeded to work hard making sure that every eligible Minnesotan was able to apply for it. The numbers are stunning. Groups represented up here and many who can't be here today had millions of conversations with Minnesotans throughout this process. The total applicants ended up being greater in numbers than expected, but that just goes to show how many people stepped up to keep our state running and safe during this pandemic. While others stayed at home, these Minnesotas kept showing up to make sure that we and our families were safe, fed, and protected. The amount to be sent to over 1 million Minnesota frontline workers is significant. It will go towards paying bills, car repairs, holiday gifts, savings for the future, and so much more. I hope people understand that to a working family, $500 is very meaningful. As corporate greed causes prices to skyrocket and wages to stagnate, it will be a boost for my family and many other families throughout Minnesota. It won't solve the issues we face at work, like staffing issues and hostile executives, but it is a start. More than the money, these payments represent the thanks of a grateful state to the folks that kept it running. We still have a lot of work to do, highlighted by the fact that frontline essential mental health workers at Alina, who I work with, are at this exact moment on the picket line as part of a 3-day strike for better pay and better safety. The payments made this week should only be the start of the gratitude that our state shows, and I implore our state officials to strive to find new and other meaningful ways to respect, protect, and recognize healthcare workers. But today we take a moment to pause and celebrate this win. I'm excited that our members and working people across Minnesota will see this money in their pockets very soon. Thank you to everyone who fought for this and to the elected officials and state agencies who listened to the frontline workers to make this happen. And now I'd like to hand it off to my friend Keith, a grocery store worker with the UFCW.
Hello everyone, my name is Keith Farr and I'm a central grocery store worker from the UFCW Local 663 union member. My coworkers and I at the grocery business played a big part of providing food for our customers during the pandemic. We are on the front line as like a police officer and a fireman, risking ourselves to provide service to keep people fed. We are out in the public. Imagine if we had shut the grocery stores down, it would have been another problem. I am so happy that this day finally came. We're getting our frontline pay. I think that it's very important that we came together as working people to include in this frontline workers pay. My COVID story includes my wife, myself, my 3 beautiful daughters. Paradise, who was 16, Precious, who was 13, Paris is 10. When I had COVID, the kids stayed at home from school during the time. I had to push past my bad symptoms, the body aches, the loss of smell, and I felt kind of depressed. I wore a mask around the house to make sure that we all was taken care of. I took them to the hospital to get them checked to make sure no one else had COVID. No one did, so that was good. The stay-at-home period was even more difficult when the kids were at home doing school online in the beginning of the pandemic. It required more food. It was hard for the girls to stay focused. It was tough. My wife and I decided that one of us had to stop working in order to support our daughter. My wife did, and it cut our income in half at the time that it was most needed. Frontline worker pay is important to me because my family my family sacrificed that we made and continue to make, because I am an essential worker and I plan to use the money for rent. Thank you guys, and up next is Rachel, a nurse with MNA.
Since spring 2020 began the pandemic and phrases like social distancing, safe at home, and essential worker became part of our daily language, those of us on the front lines showed up then, and we continue to show up now. After 2.5 years of waiting, we finally have something to say. Thank you for our efforts. For the workers who applied who felt qualified but were not approved, we apologize. We knew of your sacrifices and know what you went through in order to get through that time. Every effort was made to include anyone who had no choice but to go to work in order to continue to receive a paycheck. There was an initial proposal of $12,000 to go exclusively to healthcare workers, which was funded by a pool of $250 million. We rejected this. Instead, we stood firm that healthcare workers never carried the weight alone and demanded more funding to be distributed to many more deserving workers. We were able to double the funding to $500 million and included as many deserving frontliners as possible. Today, we finally get to find out what that means. For thousands of households tonight, a little bit of help is on the way. In that time where we overcame fear of infection, illness, disability, and worse, in the name of providing for their families and yours, this is a good day. Today, you get some of that childcare money back. Some money for groceries, rent, gas, or school supplies. Today might not seem much more than a thank you, but it's a true recognition for families of one, even two frontline workers who made Minnesota safe. It's a thank you to the healthcare workers, the grocery and retail workers, food service, transportation, sanitation, and to all the teachers who came back to work just to have to take a stand later again this year. This is a thank you to those who made safe happen. We got here when we all came together because this job was never one-sided. We also couldn't have done this without the initial support of our legislative leaders, Cedric Frazier and Aaron Murphy. Thank you for having our back when we needed you the most.
My name is Aaron Murphy. I serve in the Minnesota Senate. I am a registered nurse. I did vaccine clinics at the height of the pandemic. And I'm very happy to be here today to say that this is a very good day for frontline workers, for essential workers. And it is proof that when we lead with purpose and we persist despite entrenched politics, that we can make progress for the people of Minnesota. I want to thank first the coalition of workers, without which this would not have happened. And despite obstacles, they continued to fight to bring their voices and their reasoning to this issue, and they stuck together. They stuck together in a way that made sure that more people would get more money, and they succeeded. I want to thank Minnesotans for listening to the stories and saying, yep, that's right. Those people who went to work while I stayed home, they deserve a thanks, and I'm going to support that effort and to put pressure on the legislature to actually make it happen. And last, I want to thank my colleague, Representative Cedric Frazier, who did the heavy lift in the Minnesota House when my Senate colleagues in the Republican-led Senate would not hear this bill. Cedric has done fundamental work on this piece of legislation, and we would not be where we are today without his steadfast leadership and that of the coalition behind me. As I said, today is a good day. It's a joyful day, and I'm grateful to be with everybody as we celebrate the progress that we've made for the people of Minnesota. And again, thank you to all of the frontline workers.
Thanks, everybody. Cedric Frazier, State Representative, District 45A. I just want to thank everybody for being here this morning. This is a great day for workers. I am happy to be here to celebrate with everyone that's up here. Thank you to the commissioner and her staff. 5 months. 5 months is what they had to get this thing rolling, to put a process in place and get things to where they are today. And they've done a great job at that, so thank you for that work. To all the workers that came up here and testified, thank you again for showing up to talk about the sacrifices that you made. It has not ceased to amaze me over the several months that we've listened to your stories, the sacrifices that we did not know about that you all made for everyday Minnesotans. I got to tell you, the way this thing works, capitalism, our society, our economy, it doesn't work. It doesn't go well if we don't have dedicated workers. like we have standing with us today, like we've had with us throughout the pandemic, that showed up day in and day out, that sacrificed themselves and their families to make sure the job got done. So like my colleague said, Senator Murphy, without you, we wouldn't have got this done. Your years of experience in the legislature helped us negotiate and get through some things and to continue to push forward. So thank you for that. I will always appreciate it. It is a happy day. It is a great day for workers, and I'm just happy to be a part of this process, and I'm happy to celebrate it with them all today. Thank you. And now we'll have Commissioner Blissenblock come up to share some details.
Thank you. It is a happy day. Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Blissenbach, and I currently serve as the temporary commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. I want to start by saying it's been an honor to administer the Frontline Worker Pay Program and provide the well-deserved and long-awaited recognition to so many of Minnesota's frontline workers for the extraordinary sacrifices they made during the COVID-19 pandemic. These workers deserve our thanks, and I'm grateful to be part of the program that gives them a token of our appreciation. So today I'm proud to announce that 1,025,655 Minnesota frontline workers who applied and met all eligibility requirements of the Frontline Worker Pay Program will receive a payment of $487.45. These payments will begin processing this Wednesday, October 5th. The approved applicants who chose to receive payment via ACH direct deposit should see those funds deposited within 7 to 10 business days. And those who chose to receive the payment via a debit card, a prepaid debit card, will be mailed their funds within 3 to 4 weeks. It's hard for me to believe, and I believe Representative Frazier mentioned this as well, but it's only been a little over 5 months since this bill was signed into law by Governor Walz. We launched the application on June 8th, and at the close of the application period on July 22nd, almost 1.2 million active submissions had been received for consideration. This was an extremely successful 45-day application period. After 3 weeks of application processing, we announced initial denials and detailed the appeals process and period. Given the number of applications and appeals, we made sure to devote the time necessary to determine eligibility for the frontline worker payments. This required verification of applications, a thorough review of all properly submitted appeals, quality control checks, and additional verification checks. Of the applications submitted, 173,666 were deemed ineligible after the verification and appeals process ended. According to the Frontline Worker Pay Law, the decisions on appeal are final. All of that work has brought us to this point, where we can finally begin notifying applicants of their eligibility and begin payment processing. Every applicant will receive an email between today and the end of the day on Wednesday, informing them of their final status and next steps. I want to thank the elected officials in the Minnesota House and the Senate and our champions here who created and championed this program for their crucial support and persistence in advocating for workers and getting the bill passed. I also want to special thanks to the Frontline Worker Coalition for the incredible efforts they have made to promote, support, help workers apply, and assist in distributing vital information along the way at each juncture of the program to the workers who needed it most. We appreciate and recognize their deep commitment to workers and the incredible advocacy. The partnership has made this program the success that it is. I also want to give a special thanks to the incredible group of staff members working long hours for a fast and furious 5-month period. This project was a collaboration of 5 state agencies: the Department of Labor and Industry, the Department of Revenue, DEED, Minute, MMB, and it's a success because of that incredible team of staff members that put the work into this program. We created highly effective cross-agency teams that were developed with a focus on different project tasks: developing an application portal, eligibility verification, fraud prevention, payment distribution, statewide communications and outreach in multiple languages, applicant support, and ultimately our reporting structure. From the date the contract was signed with the IT vendor until the application go-live date of June 8th, we had 20 business days to build a system that ultimately accepted, processed, and verified what turned out to be almost 1.2 million applications. And now we're at the point where we get to distribute $500 million in direct payments to workers. This is an incredible lift and was only possible because of the dedication of the different agencies and staff involved. So as I mentioned, it's been an incredible honor. I'm happy to be here today to provide this announcement. And I'm happy we've reached the point in time where we can begin the payment processing and give the recognition to the many workers who sacrificed so much throughout the pandemic. Thank you, and I'm happy to open it up for some questions.
I just want to confirm, you said all, so it's not just applicants who have submitted appeals that we'll hear today or tomorrow. All applicants, regardless of status, will get an email, tomorrow or Wednesday saying yes, no.
Yes, everyone who submitted an application will receive an email to the account that to the email address they established their account under, informing them of the final decision as well as the next steps. And those emails will go out between now and the end of the day on Wednesday.
Okay, that may be, you may have answered this. So I've talked to a lot of people who said they've heard nothing since their application. So there are people out there who've gotten no response, right? Or has everybody not gotten a response until today or tomorrow?
Everyone should have received, at the beginning of the appeals period, everyone should have received one of two emails. One email that would have informed them if they were subject to a denial and ready for the appeals process, or an email saying no further information was needed from the applicant. So emails went out to all applicants at that point in time, and they will again go out between now and Wednesday, informing people of the final status. So the legislation does address that. It made the final payments not taxable at the state level. However, the payments are taxable at the federal level. We couldn't change that through this legislation.
Will you provide a breakout of the different sectors, how many of the recipients fall under those, what professions they're in, just broadly speaking?
Yeah, that's a great question. The legislation is very specific. It does require that the Department of Labor and Industry produce a report to the legislature that will contain many details, numbers, and across sectors, cross geography, and that report will be given to the legislature. I believe the timeline is 90 days after payment processing.
But is that something you know now? Do you know?
I do not have details on the sector breakdown at this point, but we will detail all of that in the report.
Can I, from the lawmakers, political question for 2 minutes step forward? Let's talk about the timing. We're about a month out from the election. Does this feel like a Jesse check, or could this help the governor and control the House and Senate?
Oh, just quickly, I would say that we can't control that timing. When we begin to negotiate this could have happened last year. It was the barriers and the resistance of our Republican colleagues that put it at this moment. So this isn't really a coincidence. I'm just happy that workers are finally going to get a token of our appreciation for what they did during the pandemic.
And I'll just add that this token will help Minnesotans with the cost of things. And so that's the most important piece of the timing, is that we're going to have money in their pockets. And we're grateful about that.
Follow up while the two of you there. I can't help but notice if Democrats hold on and win the two chambers, could we be looking at the new majority leaders and leadership?
I'm focused on the election.
Same here. Focus.
Are you interested in the position now going forward?
I am focused on the election.
Same here.
Talk about how this program, was there a point when you were like, am I ever going to get word about this? And you talk about being someone who's been in the process and from the beginning, from advocating for these checks to now actually being in line to get one. What's it been like?
It's been kind of tough, but me and my wife, we kind of worked it out. We just try to just save as much as we could save. I'm just happy that we finally getting it, getting this payment. So it was hard times, but you know, we made it through. And we finally here. So.
Would you reflect on the final number, the $487 that you're going to get? It's less than what everybody initially expected, $750.
Yeah.
but it's more than zero.
Yes, it's better than nothing, you know. I mean, I would have liked it to be a little more, but, I mean, it is what it is. Everyone deserves it, you know, that, deserves it, that worked at the time.
Keith, can you say spell your name for us?
It's Keith Farr, Keith,
Farr, and
Farr.
what do you do specifically?
I'm a meat cutter at Lungs and Barley's.
And you kept doing that from the time that most people were sent home to,
Yep,
you still doing it?
I was still doing that. I was there for the whole ride. Yep.
Does anybody else want to talk about just the waiting for this? I mean, it's been talked about for almost 2 years now, and now the checks are finally going out.
I can do that one.
Thank you.
For me, it's been really surreal. Being here in the Capitol is a little, I wasn't expecting to be emotional, but I kind of am. I started my journey behind us at the Bethesda ICU, and I ended it in front of us, in front of the lawn at St. John's or St. Joe's. So being able to look out the window at St. Joe's and see the Capitol where we are now, it's honestly really surreal to know that what we did, just basic workers who came together, we helped 1 million Minnesotans get through something and get something at the end of the day. So it feels really good to have helped that many people out of something that was really hard for us. So I'm really, really happy with the group of people that came together and recognized that we all did it together. We should all share this together.
Can we get your full name and spelling?
RACHEL HANNEMAN.
And your exact job?
I'll be starting at Southdale, start date to be determined, but I'll be on the critical care flex team. Night shift is where it's at.
If I could ask about another kind of political question here, is there going to be another effort to try to get more money out of the next legislature? Because this fell short of what some of you wanted, obviously. Thank you for that question. The legislation did require, as part of the report, to tell us where we fell short in terms of getting, I think it was it 1,000? Do you want? What was it, the amount in the report to tell us that we were less than, how much was it?
In the
1,000?
legislation,
Yeah.
it's 1,500 is what the.
So in the legislation, it's, there will be a report to tell us how much we fell short of the $1,500 for each recipient that applied. I would imagine that as legislators, we will take a look at that report when we're back in session to determine if we're going to take more action. I personally believe we should take more action. These are our workers. We should give them the resources that they earn and that they deserve, but we'll have to see what that looks like in the next session.
And does it matter how much the legislature looks like? Who's in control? What kind of margins?
I'm always going to push that we take care of our workers, so I can give you that promise to the workers there. We're going to push to advocate that you get the resources that we started with from day one, and that was the number we had. That's why we wanted to know how far we fell short of that, and we're going to look to see if we can get that for workers.
I think it is important to recognize that there is a fair amount of work to do on behalf of workers, and frontline worker pay is one important provision, but we are still experiencing workforce shortages in critical areas in education and nursing homes and healthcare across sectors that are important to the way that we lead our lives. Where there are workforce shortages, I think we need to pay attention to worker wages and worker safety, and I know that workers are doing that outside of the Capitol, but it is an agenda that I think we need to continue to pursue inside the Capitol.
Commissioner, if you could save us the math here, the number of folks who were initially denied who became approved, do you know how many that is? And can you just, is there a most common reason for denial that you saw?
So the number of, if I got the question right, you're asking how many people went through the appeals process and were approved? Okay, we're at about, I think it was about 50,000 who successfully made it through the appeals process. I think the denial reasons really just range across all of the potential denial reasons there were at the beginning. So the unemployment insurance threshold, the adjusted gross income threshold, the employment eligibility, 120 hours in a frontline sector in the state of Minnesota. So it kind of fell across those areas, and We did see a number of people who were not in an employment relationship, so independent contractors, self-employed business owners. But it kind of went across those different denial reasons.
What about the ones, people who were unrejected essentially, who succeeded in the appeals process? Were those mostly like they provided additional paperwork or documentation, or like how did they go from bucket A to bucket B?
Yes, so the appeals process worked great. It allowed people to submit information that maybe wasn't submitted in the initial application, correct some information, maybe if they got their social security number wrong or something that would allow us to verify that they were in fact eligible. So the appeals process allowed them to upload documentation. It allowed them to correct the information that they submitted in the initial application and provide a written reason for why they felt that they should not have been denied. And it was really helpful to the staff that were processing the appeals to have that additional information from people and hear their experience.
Were all of the people who had their denial overturned, was it all based on a mistake that they had made in their application, or were there instances where the state had made a mistake in denying them?
So our verification process went through without any hitches. So when the appeals were submitted, we looked at what was in the appeal and we made the determination as to whether or not they met the eligibility criteria.
And remind us, what was the income threshold? And I seem to remember that there was some exception for doctors.
You are going to challenge me here on the income threshold. I have so many numbers in my head that I have to actually pull out the legislation that I've been carrying around since it was signed on April 29th. So the income threshold, there were two different thresholds, one for individuals who did not have direct COVID-19 patient care and another for those that did have direct COVID-19 patient care. So let me see here. So it was for individuals who were employed with direct COVID-19 patient care, it was $350,000 for a married taxpayer filing a joint return and $175,000 for other filers. And for all other individuals, it was $185,000 for a married taxpayer filing a joint return and $85,000 for all other filers.
The direct deposit versus debit card, did people have to indicate that on their initial application? There's no way to change that now.
So.
Forget what they originally signed up for.
Yes, well, so they indicated on their initial application which one they wanted and then filled out the information necessary to either for the bank account where the money will be deposited or the address where they wanted the prepaid debit card to be sent. We will be starting those payments on Wednesday. They will go out to the bank account that was indicated in the application or the address that was indicated in the application. If the bank account is rejected, the payment is rejected, there will be an email going out to those individuals asking them to update their bank information, and we'll give them a time period to do so. If they is then rejected again, it will default to a prepaid debit card being mailed to their address. And I should mention, we do have some FAQ on our website, both related to payments and related to denials.
Can you run me the list of approved applicants be public information? Will that be released?
The legislation classifies all of the data we received through the application process as confidential, so it will not be released.
Any more questions? All right, thank you all.
My name is Nathan Erickson, H-E-R-I-C-K-S-O-N, and I am a produce supervisor with Walz and Barley's.
Okay, yeah, for sure. You want to do it?
I saw that.
Different.
No, that either.
Is it a C or K?
It's a K.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris Miller, R-I-S-S-M-I-L-E-R.